All righty. Well, when you're ready, sir.
Well, I just want to thank everybody who's attending for joining this platform here and this presentation of reskilling adults post-pandemic. We're all hopeful that we'll be back to normal soon, but in the meantime, we're going to do whatever we can to reach those out there in any manner that we can. We have three speakers today. We have Neve, Jarlath, and Yusa. Neve and Jarlath are sharing the same name on the screen, but Neve is the gal, yeah, in the red. So I'm going to bow out here. I do know that they have some breaks in their presentation where we can ask questions, and I'll turn it over to them now. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. As David said, our session is going to be reskilling adults post-pandemic. We will be using some polling software. I have popped the information into the chat, so feel free to ask any questions you might have relating to that.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm Jarlath O'Carroll. I'm the CEO and founder of JobSeekers, and Neve, my colleague, will keep us on track today, and then Yusuf is going to help us kind of navigate the questions and answers today as well.
I do have one point. Somebody, I think maybe it's Yusuf or Yusa. Maybe some noise in the background. I'm hearing something. Is that okay? That did. Sorry about that. I just want to make sure everyone could hear.
Sounds good. All right, so we're gonna start. Obviously, we're talking about adult reskilling today. We're going to start talking about why reskilling, why skills should be the basis of kind of the education and getting people back to work. Why does it matter? And a little bit about how you should think about implementing that or doing that in your programs, in your regions, at your institution or agency today. All right. One note, from our perspective, we're going to use a couple of terms are equivalent, essentially. Competencies equals skills, or skills equals competencies. And if we mention CBE at all, that's what we call competency-based education. Can be, again, and synonymous with skills-based education. So we're as Neve mentioned. Neve, you put this in the poll in the chat already. Neve. Okay. This is in the chat, which is the poll, and we'll start off with a pretty simple question. It's polling software. You can do it via text or web. Just go to that web address and you can see the questions pop up, or you can actually do it in text as well, via text. First question, just to get it started here. If you had a ticket, presumably a flight, or maybe not a flight, maybe a boat, where would you go? Italy, okay, nice. Scotland. Seychelles, New. I don't know what new refers to.
New York City.
Oh, New York City. Okay, sorry. Missed that. Nice. All right. Thanks for participating. That's great. See some nice places to go. Next question. So if you had a word or phrase to use to describe adult reskilling at your institution agency today, what would it be? So a single word to describe kind of those efforts today, what would that be? I see growing. Yep. Challenging. All right. Understandable. Renaissance. That's a good word. Maybe we'll get into some of the reasons why it's challenging today, and feel free to add some additional comments on that in the chat on the side, please. Disjointed. Okay, so definitely some challenges overall. Challenge seems to be the complicated, challenging. Yeah. Okay, so I think we have some stuff to get through today. All right. Last question for now. Do you see the need to expand the number of short-term, presumably non-credit courses to reskill adults across, your training programs? Okay. You have some. Overall, it seems like you have some, but you need a lot more. Okay, but depending on which institution you're in, I mean, some of you, it seems like already have enough, but some need a lot more. Okay. All right, so let's get into a little bit more detail as to why reskilling. So I don't think we need to emphasize this point. That's the reason why you're here. There's 20 million people that were impacted by the pandemic over the last year and a half that need to either find a new path into a new job, find a new job, find a new industry, career, etc. So we know that's kind of table stakes. Skills and competencies more accurately depict what a person knows and can do. So it's more granular, and it helps people get back to work quicker and get back into the labor market with things that employers are actually looking for. Skills, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but skills is something that can be adapted over time and can from a regional economic perspective, you can get people skilled up in new areas much quicker than obviously you can get people through a degree or even a certificate. With skills-based learning, it's much quicker, more focused on the specific skills that employers are looking for. Skills-based approach can support learn and earn. So as you learn the skills that are needed in the workforce, or as you demonstrate those skills through work-based learning, through paid work-based learning, then it reduces the cost from an education standpoint to the individual, because potentially they're earning while they're learning, and supports that demonstration of those learnings in the actual workforce. Skills also offer an opportunity to bring more equity and access into the job market and better align people with fulfilling careers. I think there's basically been a gap between what employers are looking for and what education, generally speaking, offers. This skills helps bring those two in line, but then by doing so helps those that may not have had the opportunity before see those opportunities, and helps employers kind of pull out those individuals that may not have had that opportunity based on skills. They can see the skills that the individual's actually bringing to the table. This just is kind of re-emphasizing the point that the education education is going to be what we call lifelong learning, essentially helping the individuals reskill, and ensure that that constantly moves. And the reason for that is the pace of change is still exponential. We're still on an accelerating rate of change based on the technology acquisition, and that change isn't slowing down. And the number of jobs that are going to be impacted, obviously, over the last year and a half, hospitality industry and the food preparation industry, restaurant industry, hotel industry, etc., events industry has been severely impacted. But almost regardless of the pandemic, we were on this trend anyway. This is not something new. This trend has been underway for quite some time, and it's, as I said, it's continuing to accelerate. So nearly half of all the jobs that exist in the US today will be susceptible to computerization, or essentially most of the workers in those industries will have to find something else to do, hence the need for reskilling overall. And if you talk to employers today, they are saying that 50% of employees will need reskilling by 2025. And that the workers themselves understand this, especially today. Workers today understand that. So, for example, a third of workers believe that if they were to lose their jobs, they'd have to find a different career. Why reskilling matters to your clients. Many of them probably have, as there is 36 million people across the US today with some post-secondary, but not, they never actually got the piece of paper or degree, and that would give them a 50% increase in wage if they have that, and a significant increase in wage over their lifetime. But that's why reskilling matters, is to helping those individuals understand and document the skills that they're earning through the coursework and training that you're offering, so that they can present themselves in a way back to the labor market that to employers that in a language that makes sense, that's based on the skills and competencies that employers are looking for. Some of the things that you might have, maybe you're learning this day to day in how you're interacting with your clients, but there is a lot of concern about careers and jobs in the marketplace today. There's over 60%, I think it's, 59% sought out skills training on their own since the start of the pandemic. 59% of employees. 72% rethinking their skills, and I think there's a really high stat. I think it's in the 80% range. I don't have it here, but 80% of people that are thinking about changing their jobs or changing their careers once we get back to normal, whatever normal might look like in the future. So there's a significant amount of change in the labor market today, and likely will be for the future. I'll skip past this, but this is just re-emphasizing the need for education with skills or competencies built in, and emphasizes that. And then what are the skills that employers are looking for most? If you look at these, the words that are used here by these employers as to what they're looking for, they're not really looking for hard skills. They're looking for the employability, or what some people call soft skills, right? The problem solving, critical thinking, resilience, teamwork, collaboration. They're the skills that are being sought after most. I'm sure many of you have heard of what we call a divergent recovery, economic recovery, where this K represents the two sides of that story. Essentially, those that were doing well before the pandemic are still doing well and continue to do well. Those who are doing not so well are now at risk of their situation, their economic situation becoming worse. What we think that skills and reskilling has the opportunity to turn that around, to provide opportunity for all, to ensure that by ensuring that access to skill-based education for all is available within your community, basically building pathways within your community for those for the needs, for the skills that are required by your employers, and to reduce bias within the hiring process by enabling your clients to present their skills to the skills that they've earned through your programs, through your training, to employers so that they can hire based on skills. I'm going to stop here for any comments that might have come up in the chat or anything else that any of my colleagues want to add.
Well, Joy makes a good point. She said that reskilling is needed, but some colleges and universities don't want to use non-credit courses because they think it will be in competition with their for-credit courses and programs.
I'm certainly not going to argue with that. That's certainly we've seen some of that resistance. Does Joy offer any solution? Yeah, I can't see the comments, Yusuf, so I don't know if anybody's.
No, but she found it amusing. Just give you a laugh. How about that?
Okay. Thanks, Joy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't say that there's a solution other than some of the more progressive organizations that we're working with today understand the need for providing the non-credit shorter-term courses for adult reskilling. Obviously, there's a lot of funding becoming available for doing exactly that now as well. And so the incentives are aligning in a different way than maybe they were in the past, and that's why we're hopeful to see much more movement towards reskilling and shorter term courses, non-credit courses in the short term.
Lloyd points out that some colleges like WGU use a skills-based approach to earning credit, and others like Excelsior College do accept some ACE-rated non-credit courses as well. So this is true. We have seen that as well.
Is there anybody, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but I'm just curious if anybody in the audience here today believes that credit for prior learning is also a significant part of this question, to ensure that students coming back for reskilling can get credit for their prior learnings or even work-based learning?
They're saying yes. Yes, and sure should be. And also Central Michigan has plenty of online non-credit programs. So good combo.
Yep. Great. Okay. So let's continue the questions around this and just see what your particular focus is on or going to be on in the next 2 years. And the suggestions here are, well, the question is, what are the things you're going to focus on the next 2 years? Suggestions here are just suggestions. If there's other things that you and your colleagues and your institutions are going to focus on, I'd love to hear that. Yeah, reskilling. Great. All of the above looks like. Retention. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna speak to some or all of these in a few minutes here. Just wanted to get a sense of where the audience is going. Careers. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so next question. What features of a reskilling system are most important in order to scale these efforts in your agency, institution, or region? I know some of you earlier suggested that there was definitely complications and struggles that you're going through. Again, if in these questions you're not seeing the answers you would expect, please pop them in the chat instead. Don't be shy, and just to help us understand, what are the things that you're looking to solve for. Neve, this is a ranking question, is that right? Or how is this one? I think this is a ranking question. So if so, I believe it requires you to
double submit. So yes, after you rank your options, your choices there, make sure you hit submit in the button below.
Great. And we can come back to the answers here. So we'll leave that question open for now, but yeah, it requires a double submit, as Yusuf said. So let's just talk a second about skills, right? So a happy path, right? So for at least my parents, this was the happy path. You go from high school into secondary, and then you become ready for a career, and you start your career, and that career helps you throughout your lifetime. That certainly was the case for my father, who spent 43 years, I believe it was, in basically the same, not the same job, but the same public institution. But I don't. That happy path is not really available anymore. Skills are definitely part of the equation as you're looking to get into your career in the first place, but certainly over your career, that career needs to shift, and future skill building is what is required now, and particularly in kind of the shocks after the pandemic and other shocks that have happened in the past and will likely appear in the future. We need to have flexibility in the job market to ensure that each individual can be better prepared. So we're among many that believe that skills are a core part of how the education system needs to support that adaptation to meet the needs of the world today. Not through destruction, as mentioned earlier, with degrees and credentials competing, but overall are still very valuable. That overall are still very valuable in the degrees and certificates. But when combined with a skill and AI or skills and skills-based education approach, they're even more valuable when in a world where a first job is just the beginning and not the beginning of the end. So in doing so, basically it creates a fairer system for all, providing options for those that had previously fewer options, and basically provides a much more equitable solution in the job market for many that felt maybe they were on the outside looking in previously. And particularly for where we are today, there's a lot of people looking to get back into the workforce after being impacted by the pandemic. So how do we do that? Basically helping each individual student, each individual client, each individual job seeker understand how to get from where they are today to where they want to go in the job market. Helping them understand the path from based on their interests and skills and desires, the path through the right education training programs to get them to that ultimately to that career, helping them earn, learn, and retain or articulate the skills that they need within that career, within that pathway, matching them with opportunities. And opportunities here means obviously jobs, but prior to that, as we mentioned earlier, the need for short-term, maybe part-time jobs, part-time opportunities, as the individual is learning those skills, to be able to build their confidence within that pathway and demonstrate those skills within that pathway, and get the support through mentoring and employer-based support and feedback to get them more prepared for that next career. Ultimately helping each individual become an economic force for themselves and their families, and improving their ability to adapt over time to the changes in the workforce. In order to do that at the kind of the skills granularity, what we as a company do is help you map the skills in your curriculum in order to present them in a way that employers, yourselves, and your clients can understand. So you're building a way for each individual to see the skills and see how those skills reflect what's being needed in the job market. So they can basically see, the goal is to see the light at the end of the tunnel, to help those individuals see that whether they're going through a 6-week, 10-week, 12-week reskilling program, or maybe it's a year, maybe it's 18 months, if they're going through a shorter or longer term program, to help them understand the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the jobs and opportunities that are out there as they begin to earn those skills, begin to demonstrate those skills, or talk about those skills, or build their confidence around those skills in the market, in the job market, through work-based learning, through mentoring, through events, being more and more exposed excuse me, to the labor market and to the jobs, and seeing how they can continue to engage with you and the labor market and opportunities for future reskilling as well, all in collaboration with you, your advisors, your job developers, your work-based learning coordinators, etc., and your local employers. Right? It's one cannot be isolated from the other. Working across your region, because no one institution is an island. Basically, high schools interacting with community colleges, interacting with 4 years, and interacting with obviously yourselves and the workforce agencies, and to essentially help lift all boats, help lift your job seeker on the left-hand side to being an employer on the right. And by taking this skills-based approach, you're basically helping each individual build their transcript, their profile, their resume, automatically build their resume that helps that individual transition from where they are today to where they want to go by representing the skills that they've earned through the training that you're offering. Any questions on that, Yusuf and Niamh? Are there any questions in the chat?
We don't have anything in the chat at the minute. Still some people sharing some undergraduate credits and how that's handled in their regions.
Okay, credit for prior learning question, yeah. And oh, wrong way. So helping your clients represent the skills they're earning through that coursework, either through your through programs that you're offering yourselves or through your ETP, and then helping them, the employers themselves, see the detail behind each skill. It's kind of built in, right, to the name, reskilling. reskilling needs to be based on skills that are applicable into the job market right now. So what we need to do is to be able to help your clients see why that skill or set of skills matters to them, what jobs and opportunities are available to them in the labor market, and how your programs help support that. So it's the ability to essentially recruit to some of the earlier comments. It's to recruit your clients into those programs. It's to retain those clients in those programs because they can see they're amassing the skills that are needed in the labor market, and it's helping with them with their career, to help them see the careers that are applicable based on the skills that they're earning.
Charlotte, we do have
yes.
a couple of questions. Marion was asking, how do they make this adjustment to their career readiness?
How do they make this adjustment? Could you expand on that a little bit more, Marion, please? Because I'm not quite sure. Maybe Yusuf, you can help me.
Well, Cindy follows up with a great point too, saying collaboration of infrastructure seems very promising, and it is. I mean, that is one of the ultimate goals, right, Jarlath, is to make sure that your systems are speaking to each other to maximize the not just efficiency and communication and teamwork amongst the different silos in the organization, but also to make sure that your systems are creating more efficiencies for you in the job, so you're more easily able to not just track the data you need, but call upon the resources that you need, regardless of the platform that you're on at the moment.
Yeah, I would say come back to the original question, but Yusuf makes a great point in terms of just to pick out a couple of initial things like intake forms. What we've seen is your clients, job seekers, need to fill out anywhere from 2 to 10 different intake forms in order to get that training. We can significantly reduce that down to 1 in order to basically ensure that the proper data is being shared across the different systems and reduce the load. And that's the point of this image that you're looking at today. There's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle to ensure that a student, a client, a job seeker can get better prepared for the job market based on the path that they've chosen, get the training that they need and articulate those trainings, those skills in a way that employers can understand, and then use the institution giving them all the additional help and services that help with mentoring, with maybe career fairs, with employer engagement, bringing those employers into the party to help can make that connection in a tangible way for those individuals. And then I'd say the other thing is just to focus on the employer piece as well. Employers are definitely struggling today as well, and they're struggling to find the right individuals. They're struggling to kind of communicate with all the parties that are across your landscape today, your region today, and that's why we built out what we call an employer hub or regional hub that enables employers to post their opportunities once, and then for those to be distributed out across yourselves, your workforce boards, your colleges, institutions, K-12. And again, reduce the hurdles. Essentially, with reskilling, you have to reduce the hurdles on the job seeker, but oftentimes what we forget is to also reduce the hurdles for the employer themselves. Let me get back to the original question around career preparation. There's the skills. Skills are one piece of that puzzle, right? To help a individual get better prepared for the job market, they need to have maybe a new set of skills, and hence the title Reskilling. But for as indicated earlier when we talked about employers are looking for not just the hard skills, but also the soft skills, being able to present themselves in a proper way, being able to be resilient and work in teams that maybe that individual hasn't been used to previously, right? So it's not all about the hard skills. Maybe the like, you know, just as an example, maybe going into the medical industry, learning about the medical industry. It's also about how you work and how you prepare those job seekers for working in teams, and that's somewhat to do with the coursework that's provided, but also how that interaction within the coursework and with employers can help with getting that individual through work-based learning better prepared and build their confidence in that career. Hopefully that helps to answer the question.
We did have
any other comments? Sorry?
We did have a couple of follow-ups to this response. So Marion followed up. She was saying it makes great sense, but she's quite frustrated that a lot of her high schools and colleges seem resistant. And how can they address this resistance? A couple of people did follow up in response to. Joy and Lloyd both had some great responses. Lloyd was saying most organizations and the individuals who lead them resist change. The innovator's dilemma is a good explanation of this mindset, but resistance by one school is the opportunity of another. He recommends to concentrate working on those who welcome the opportunity rather than trying to convince those who are resistant.
Sounds like a good strategy. That's a problem that we see everywhere, right? I mean, it's something that it's more of a social problem. It's kind of hard to solve because it's hard to address in the first place. I mean, you're all absolutely correct. People are resistant to change because they're comfortable in the role that they are. That they have, which leads to Joy, what you're saying. You know, they're just trying to put their clients into a job and get them off their caseload as opposed to do anything innovative for them. And that is the problem overall. That's why trying to find some kind of, you know, not supplementary, but some additional services and platforms that can help you get that extra edge might be the, you know, one of the catalysts that can help to a change in the pathway or the journey that, you know, the job seeker is on that you're trying to help in the first place.
What we found is that the kind of the realization, I think you're all kind of hinting on this, is that the realization is that the old ways, or the ways that in some institutions, the ways that thinking about education in a way that's kind of once and done doesn't it isn't that applicable because individuals need to adapt to the labor market in a much faster way. So what we found is there's definitely institutions that understand that they need to adapt. Hence why you know, institutions like WGU, as somebody mentioned, like SNHU and others, are moving down the path of skills-based or competency-based education, which our system supports. To ensure that students can understand the skills they're earning through their coursework, and again, this is nothing against you know, the existing education system, degrees and for credit, etc. But it's not a one size fits all, and it's not a once and done workforce anymore, right? The labor market is changing, and it's changing more rapidly than it ever has done before. And that was demonstrated definitely over the last 18 months. You know, I think we're all saying the same thing, that there's some institutions that are ready for that change, and some that might need additional supports to provide that change and gradually move towards that, and not try and bite off too much, and do it gradually. Institute these changes gradually over time to ensure that you can provide pieces of the education in a kind of a short-term, non-credit, skills-based, rather than trying to do it all at once.
Great. Charlotte, do you think the reskill effort suffers from too many points of entry to various programs?
My immediate reaction to that question, it's a very good question. Thanks for asking, whoever asked. My immediate reaction is no, because I think that's just reality. Because everybody's coming. We have to meet students and job seekers where they're at. Some are coming obviously directly out of high school. Some are coming from high school and go on to go right directly into the workforce. Some have 10, 15, 20 years experience and need to take that experience and leverage as much as possible into their new career. So it's not, as I mentioned earlier, there's a happy path, but for most, that happy path doesn't really exist, because we have to meet each individual where they're at today, and support them in how to get from where they are today to where they want to go, no matter where they start. Was there a particular scenario that question was aimed at? Perhaps I didn't answer the question correctly.
No, that sounded great.
Actually, since I'm able to speak, that was my question.
Okay.
Well, we just see so many programs, and I didn't know if perhaps we find ourselves in a situation where they compete with one another, and at least potentially lead to some frustration from the job seeker as to where to obtain their next step skill or what program to participate in, resulting in potentially no
yeah,
action.
that's one thing we've as a system, in our system, we've just added an assessment capability into our system that then aligns that student based on that assessment, that individual, to the right programs from an individual education or training provider, or across a system or a region. So connecting them directly into the programs that matter for them, that they've expressed interest in or desires to continue down that pathway. We can essentially, to your point, David, whittle down the options down to the programs that make the most sense for that individual at that time. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing would be, at least I'm thinking, is, with so many programs, how can they be consolidated to, let's say, work within your program so that you can see the access, for, I don't know, we've got the community college initiatives for free education, educating older individuals, for retraining and offering tuition for that. It just seems like it needs a clearinghouse to some degree.
Yeah, and we're working across regions now to build that clearinghouse, if you will, to help prospective students or prospective job seekers understand the options within their communities across like all of the different options you're talking about, whether it be like you said, short-term training, or longer-term training, longer-term degrees, certificates, diplomas, etc., and providing that across regions. So that there's a kind of a single point of access, and then enabling the individual to see those all those programs across the region, and the ability to at least begin that self-selection process.
And then one last thing, would you consider these efforts and these programs to be unprecedented in their scope and quantity now compared to in the past? It seems to me, anecdotally, that's the case.
What we see overall is, guided pathways, I think, is coming into its own now. I think the connection between programs and labor market, and basically there's the three entities involved, right? So the individual student and parent. Let's all not forget about the parents. Are demanding that the system be more responsive to them and their needs, to ensure that that the job seeker, the student, the individual can see essentially through the education to the jobs that are available. That we've been talking about this for a while now, but I think we're at a new point in that journey to move to an education system that is becoming much more responsive to those needs, to those desires up front, to understand the connection between that specific piece of education and the employment that it doesn't necessarily guarantee, but it helps get that student on that path, right? That individual on that path. And to your point, I think, David, is what you're saying is the landscape has changed, and it is changing to move towards a much more dynamic landscape in terms of training and skill building over lifetime, in response to what the labor market is telling us in terms of the jobs that are going to be there in 2 years, 4 years, 10 years time, and to employers saying we need different types of skills in order to have effective employees. Was that the direction you were going with the comment, David?
Absolutely, and thank you.
I think we're about at time, but I just wanted to kind of close this off really quickly here. These are some of the things that we focus on in the conversation today, and just the last two set of questions. I see some of you have already answered this one. Thank you. And we'll close it off with the last question. Very similar responses. Okay. David, do you want to, so I just want to thank you all for your time and attention today. I appreciate it. Please let us know if you have any questions. Niamh, can you pop our contact details into the chat?
Of course.
Yusuf, any passing remarks, comments, thoughts?
No, just thank you all for interacting with us and for all your valuable comments today. It was great to have a lively audience. I hope you have a wonderful day.
One last point to the audience. I put into the chat a link for a survey. Everyone appreciates feedback so that they can make adjustments along the way. And thanks everybody for coming.